Yeah, so I really appreciate your time joining to give everyone a bit of an overview of HTTP 4K and understand what's on the roadmap for the future. But do you want to start by just giving us a bit of an introduction on you, David?
Yes, so my name is David Denton. I'm an independent consultant. I've been kind of doing this stuff since like 2000 or so, I suppose. I started with Java, and then in 2005 I went independent. Went through more Java, J2E, Spring, then went into a bit of Scala, did a bit of Python, bit of JavaScript, and then in 2017, I think, I got introduced to Kotlin and kind of fell in love with it, and so I've been using it ever since.
Nice.
I suppose that's me. I'm just
How did you get introduced to Kotlin?
So we were at a client, and before even version 1 came out, the client actually it was quite a kind of, the devs were allowed to make up kind of their own mind about what was used as long as it was reasonable. And a guy called Nat Price, who's going to be talking Kotlin Conf with us, he decided to give it a go, and that was kind of the end of that. Everyone kind of, they were kind of coming off the back of a kind of Scala experience. So Kotlin was like quite a popular option at the time. So we've been right from the initial, oh my god, the compiler doesn't work and the IDE is a bit ropey, all the way through to where we are now, which is actually, it's fairly reasonable. So that's good.
So Nat has a lot to answer for.
He certainly does have a lot to answer for, yes.
Great. So yeah, can you just give us an introduction to HTTP 4K and tell us why you decided to create it?
Okay, so HTTP4K, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a web library written in Kotlin. It's kind of, I suppose, what you would say, I suppose it was initially written as a way of getting around some kind of the problems with the Java. We were using a Java framework at the time. But the actual concept came from the Twitter paper in 2013, written by a guy called Marcus Ericsson, I think. And it kind of stated this kind of server as a function was the name of the paper, and it stated this kind of thing that you can model servers at all systems as kind of functions. And I don't really think they knew what they were onto, because Twitter wrote a framework behind it in Scala called Finagle. I wrote like an HTTP adapter on top of that. And then everyone hated that because it was quite difficult to use. So the second go, we kind of had this, we came up with the opportunity to use Kotlin, and I thought, oh, I wonder if I can rewrite this thing in Kotlin. And what started out as a like Friday afternoon 30 lines of code written by Ivan, the co-creator, and Ivan Moore, they wrote this script, and it kind of just snowballed from there, really, kind of. So, and now we're I suppose quite deep in. We're like 6 years in. We've done 600 releases. We're just about to release version 5 in a few weeks. So that's going to be exciting. Yeah, people seem to like it, and so we keep doing it, and we just keep adding more stuff to it. I suppose it's exciting. Yeah.
Nice. And can you tell us about the key benefits of using?
So mostly it's to do with simplicity, I suppose. One of the nice things about, we wanted to start with something, because Kotlin is it was a very progressive language. People were quite frustrated with like the limitations of Java. It's verbose, and there's kind of many websites, I'm sure, dedicated to the problems with the Java language. I mean, Java language itself is, it's an amazing piece of technology, and the JDK is absolutely brilliant. Kotlin kind of added this kind of sheen over the top that was kind of like the Java that everyone kind of wanted. So they took all the rough edges away in a way that kind of Scala tried to do, but kind of never did. There was always this kind of still kind of rough edge for Scala where people found it hard to actually work with. Whereas Kotlin kind of like took off those rough edges and kind of put this kind of nice glossy sheen over the top of it. So Kotlin's got an amazing developer experience pretty much in terms of how easy it is to work with language. It's kind of nice mix of functional and object-oriented. It's got nice things like the nullability, which is like nullability in the type system, which kind of gets rid of a whole category of errors. And so generally it moves at quite a fast clip. So JetBrains has done a really good job in involving the language. And so we wanted to write something that was really kind of Kotlin first, effectively. And there wasn't really anything, there were a couple of things out there at the time, but think this particular kind of paper really kind of stuck with us saying, wow, what can we do? How can we make it we want to make the main thing we've tried to do is make the developer experience really, really good. So that's the most important thing. The most important thing is everything's simple concepts, no magic. That's one of our kind of key beliefs is no magic at all in the entire thing. Every bit of code that you can see, that is written, you can see, you can click through, you can trace through exactly what's happening. We embrace immutability and speed, I suppose, speed and low memory footprint and all the stuff that's actually really, really useful in a kind of cloud environment, as opposed to like some other frameworks will only start up in like 20, 30 seconds. H50K starts up in, much less than a second, like a few hundred milliseconds, if that. And so since we introduced that, we've also ported it to what it effectively does is kind of like extract out the server runtime from the actual functionality. So it's got a layered piece. So what you can do is take your server as a function, which is all your services are basically declared. They're literally just a Kotlin function. The actual core of H50K is like 12 lines of code, and everything else is just kind of window dressing on top. When you attach it to a server, which is a completely separate operation, it doesn't matter which server you attach it to. So you can put it in a servlet. We actually now support, well, in a couple of weeks when we release version 5, we'll support 20 different servers and Graal VM. And 20 of those servers are kind of, there's 6 serverless environments in that. So we can take things, we can run them locally, we can run them in a serverless environment, we can run them in Graal. It's all completely portable. And so and because things are simple, because there's no magic, there's no reflection, everything runs really fast. So that you get like the feedback loops, which we're really always trying to tighten up, especially when we're doing test-driven development. We want those feedback loops to be as short as possible. We want as much testing to be done on the developer machine as possible, so you don't have to wait for a build to fail. And what we're exploring at the moment is the way to get higher levels of the test pyramid, end-to-end tests, and kind of multi-service tests, so they can run on a developer machine before you even commit to source control. So simplicity, testing, productivity, developer experience. Those are the things that I think we aim for, at least.
Sounds good. And I guess outside of the reasons that you've just mentioned, is there any particular reasons I might use HTTP 4K over other popular frameworks for Kotlin, like Spring Boot, Ktor, and others?
Yeah, so I think there is very much it's very much a simplicity. The mental cognitive load is really, really low. So once there are a couple of concepts, but once you've got those concepts, is actually the model is kind of ridiculously powerful. So that's why I said like Twitter didn't really know what they had, because we just keep finding ways that it keeps making it better to test and easier and simpler. And we keep finding, we can pretend to be a browser. We can test like authentication flows completely in memory, without. And it's just the things we keep finding on top of this model that we didn't know about, and it would just look quite like a neat thing. There's a level of kind of productivity that and the kind of low overhead that really kind of feeds the developer experience, and people really seem to like it. And so it's everything composes together nicely. The model, it's trivial to add and extend, and so it kind of, I think it really does. It's quite similar to Ktor in a kind of, we're both trying to kind of leverage a kind of lower overhead, simpler, kind of more DSLE, more in the language kind of design than something that's annotation based or based on what we call magic. But we're trying to, all those kind of the frameworks that give you all the features out the box, and all the integrations with allegedly no effort. It's great as long as it works. And unfortunately, what happens occasionally is it doesn't work. And once it doesn't work, you're kind of a bit in trouble, because you can spend a long time attempting to work out what's going on, and you're only praying that somebody on the internet has had the same problem. Those are the things we're attempting to get away from. As Yvonne said, when we spoke to the JetBrains guys, they said, "Oh, there's a lack of a H50K community in Stack Overflow, which is the place where you go to ask questions." And Yvonne mentioned that he thought that was a feature and not a bug. So,
Brilliant. I guess this might come with version 5, which you said is coming soon. But what doesn't it offer so far that you would like it to?
Well, I think the thing that we've kind of like, I suppose, been the I suppose the target for us that has been was the coroutine support, which everyone was asking about for ages and ages and ages. And we did look at it. It was doable for a long time. It wasn't doable because the Kotlin actually language feature actually wasn't available for us to make it do it without breaking the entire thing effectively. And so we kind of, but by the time actually we actually could do it, Loom was starting to come along. So Loom is the virtual threading backend. So what we're actually doing in version 5 is like that we've got 3 new backends that support Loom. There'll be more incoming. Lots and lots of Java frameworks will be rewritten to kind of Loom backend. So hopefully we'll be able to get kind of the asynchronous kind of scalability without the overhead of actually having to do actually async, which, to be fair, coroutines, they're great. Structured concurrency, it's a really good bit of technology, but it is complexity, and it's like whether we have like really. The question is whether people really need it, and in a lot of cases they don't need it. Right? Lots of people love to do, developers, engineers love to feel clever, right? They love to do complicated things that make it seem like everyone, and coroutines does a really good job of taking away a lot of that complexity. And actually now maybe because that complexity has kind of been taken away even further potentially by the JVM. So the JVM, once again, it's an amazing piece of technology. It's utterly brilliant. And what we have is like a really great language and a really great runtime, and put them together, and things just start to kind of come together really neatly. So apart from that, I mean, there are other things. There are always other things, like we want to do OpenID, full OpenID Connect kind of integration. I mean, effectively, funny thing is from there, it's actually a very short jump to having a full authentication server that we could literally just go and sell. So that's going to be interesting. If we ever get time to do that, then that will be interesting to do as well.
Nice. And several of our clients use HTTP/4K. I don't know if you're able to share any of the sort of type of companies that are using it. Some might not want to share it, but any that you can.
So obviously the major one that kind of like that we know is really a client of ours is Spring Nature Technology, which is a really, really good client. They're really, they're very, very progressive, got a lot of Kotlin, they're very test driven, developer experience is very high on their list of stuff. So they're a really good company. Otherwise, it's interesting because we do know that quite a lot of our community do use the HTTP and these in banks, and so we know that big trading systems, investment banks, those banks don't like to tell, generally don't like to say what they're using for very good reasons, because nobody reveals their stack. So, but I think last count, we get pinged by people asking for consultancy and advice and that kind of thing. So we need, we know of a dozen kind of banking clients that are using it. Plus, other people keep kind of work falling out of the woodwork, and kind of like keep getting in touch. So it's nice. People really seem to like it. Somebody's using it because we're now on 1 million downloads a month. So it's unless it's a bot. Somebody's using it. So that's great.
Nice. Where can people find out more about it?
I suppose, the GitHub repo is an excellent place to look. Obviously, we've got a website. Most of our website, we use the unified theory of documentation, which is effectively takes documentation and turns it into 4 things. There's lots. We concentrate very much on like how-to guides, effectively, because it's kind of like, how do I do this? Okay, if you want to do this, there's an example to do it. Because we firmly believe in kind of like if you write documentation and it kind of goes out of date, and it's what we want to do. So a lot of documentation is driven by bits of code. All of that code is in the repository and it's all compiled. So we know that it works because it basically will compile. So on this website, it won't ever get a bit of code that doesn't compile, which is the ultimate frustration. Copy and paste thing. All of the examples are all self-contained. So, from top to bottom, it's an entire bit of code that will kind of tell you. We've got other places, the example repos. But the good place to look, a lot of people actually said that actually the source code itself is actually a really good Kotlin learning guide for actual how to write idiomatic Kotlin. So that's always lovely to hear. But yeah, but other than that, I mean, there's the Slack, the Kotlin Slack, which we hang around all the time. Kotlin meetups. I mean, yeah, just I don't know, really, kind of just the normal everyday places, I suppose.
Sounds good. Okay, David. Well, yeah, that was all the questions from me. I don't know if there's anything else at all that you wanted to share.
No, not really. And thanks for having me on. It's been cool. But yeah, so yeah, really looking forward to Kotlin Conf in a couple of weeks. That's gonna be really cool. And if I
Yes, very
can,
much
yeah,
so.
we'll be launching version 5. So we'll kind of hopefully at the conference. So that'll be exciting. Anyway.
Okay, nice. And will that be recorded to share around how it
So I
works?
believe that they're actually showing the entire conference live. I
Okay.
think. I know they're at least probably doing the main stage. They've tweeted our link already. There's like a 14-day countdown time if you want to go and hang around for 2 weeks on the thing. So I don't know. Nobody said they're not doing it. Nobody said they are. So you could get to see us kind of like talking about. So we're talking about testing, obviously, because we always talk about testing. That's we're testing boards, myself and Yvonne. So it should be a good conference. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, likewise. All right, David. Well, really appreciate your time.
No worries. Okay.